was flying back and forth between Houston and Tel Aviv because of the project we were working. And so I was in Houston and going to a church there in Houston, and I heard they were going to have a men's retreat. And so I was there, and I was talking to the person in charge of the men's retreat, and I said, can I bring some men from the Middle East to the men's retreat? And he said, sure. Yeah, sure. And I said, well, they're Hamas. Can I bring Hamas leaders to the men's retreat? What do you think he said?
Maybe not, Jamie.
Yeah, that's what he said. No. Now, why would he say no? Like, we are making a decision to stay separate. Right? Why? Because we're afraid of everything you just said. What are people going to think? They're going to murder us all when they get here, you know? And so I'm asking followers of Jesus who are having a retreat for, I think, all men, any man, can we bring these people? And the answer is no, which means and I said to the guy, so this is not a men's retreat. This is a Christian club retreat. That's all this is. And it's probably only certain Christian club retreat. Is that right? Is that accurate? See, you tell the truth. What is this? What are we doing here? And so I said to him, what do I need to do? Because this is going to bless you guys. Do you understand that? It'll bless them, but it's going to bless you just as much, because it's going to. And I said, do you understand that you're preventing peace? Do you understand that? Like, you're the obstacle to reconciliation and peace. We can't be that. And so he relented. He was like, okay. He goes, wow. I mean, he said, who's ever asked me, can we bring Hamas people? Nobody. We never think, you don't even think this way. And I said, what can I do to help? And he said, why don't you be the speaker? Because you know how to talk in this scenario. And I said, okay. I said, that's a deal. I'll speak if you let these guys come. And he's like, okay, we'll do it. So then I went to the biggest mosque in Houston. And I went to the leadership and I said, hey, we're doing a men's retreat over here. I would love for you guys to come. And they're like, what? Why are you inviting us to that? And I said, because it's a men's retreat. And they're like, we're not Christians. See, just the separation that's just built into the whole system. It's not an open door, or it's not perceived that way. So I said so the mosque leaders were like, no, we don't really, we're not interested in coming there. Because why not? Because you guys are going to try and convert us into Christianity, and we don't want to do that. And I said, well, I'm the speaker, and that's not what's going to happen. We are going to talk about Jesus a lot, but the conversion's not the goal. Transformation is the goal. And I said, and I'm bringing 5 Hamas leaders with me from the Middle East. And he said, the Imam says, you're kidding. He was Pakistani. You're kidding. And I said, no. And he goes, why are they letting them come? He said, we wouldn't even invite those people. Right. And so just see the camps and the separation and the sickness that just goes on in this, and nothing's ever going to change. So anyway, he agrees to come if the Hamas guys are going to come. So I go back to the Middle East. I meet with the Hamas guys, and I say there were 5 leaders, and I met with them, and I said, hey, there's this thing in the United States we do. It's called a men's retreat. This is what's involved. It's Christian guys. They get together. There are going to be some Muslims coming from a mosque. But I would love it if you would come. What do you think they said?
No.
No way. Right? So it's the different separated groups, and you go to invite them, and they're all like, no, 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 no. But all of them for the same reason. We're afraid. We're afraid of them. You don't even know them. That's the only way the fear can continue to exist is because you don't know them. So it's all just lies you believe, back to lie-based thinking. Anyway, I finally talked the Hamas guys. Their thing was like, Israel's never going to let us leave this place. Most of them had already been in prisons. A lot of hostility in their life. And so they have to get permission from Israel to go. And I said, so if I can get the permission, will you come with me? And they were so positive I wouldn't be able to get it. They said, okay. So then I went to the American counselor office and I said, hey, you guys, if I bring in 5 Hamas guys from the West Bank, will you give them visas into the U.S. for 10 days? My responsibility. I'll take responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, we'll do it if you're responsible for them. But there's no way you're going to get them through Israel to the U.S. consular office. But if you could get them here, well, they were the same way. You're never going to accomplish this. But if you do. So I started praying and asking God, how would you bring these Hamas guys with permission through Israel to the U.S. consular agent? Like, I don't know how to do it, because if I just go to the Israelis and say, can we do this? They're going to say no. So how would I do it? And so because I believe in the God who speaks and the God who's the God of reconciliation, that he has a way to cut through all this nonsense. And so one day I was working with the Israelis and I was with this military captain, and he was telling me about, we were working on a project, and he said, I can move this, we're talking to a different group of Palestinians. He said, I can move these leaders through Israel over to here. And I said, do you have the power to do that? He said, I can do it for 24 hours. He said, I have the power to move anyone within a 24-hour period that I want to. And I said, what about these 5 guys over here? And he said, yeah, technically I could do it. I do. That's my role. And I said, can you let me bring them? Can I have them for 24 hours? Can I move them for 24 hours? You can come with me, whatever you want to do. He agrees. So the Hamas guys are like, there's no way. It ends up the Israelis come and move them to the U.S. consular office. So immediately the Hamas guys are like, wait a second, these Israelis are helping us get to here? Like, it started to shift their view of the world. And I said, yeah, because what you believe is a lie. Get to the U.S. embassy. The guy can't believe it. He's like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? The Israelis usher them in, get the visas, take them to the U.S. When they get to the U.S., about 700 men show up at the retreat because they know these Hamas guys are coming. And so when we bring the Hamas guys in, I told the Hamas guys, they were hilarious. They'd never been in an airplane before. They'd never been outside their village before. They'd never seen water before, these guys. Their whole lives, never been allowed to go anywhere in their whole life. So it's the most astounding experience of their life. And when we were up in the plane, they were just like, one guy kept saying, this is Malakut Allah. This is the kingdom of God. He was looking down at the earth from the airplane at night. He's like, I've never had this perspective. It's always been inside this wall. I've never known this freedom. And I said, this is what the kingdom of God is like. You're not trapped. Look what you're doing. Look who helped you to get here. Israel and Americans did this. Don't forget that. And so get to the retreat. And I told him, okay, when you go into this retreat, there's like 600 dudes there. And we sleep in these bunkhouses. I had to explain the whole thing to them. They had no idea what. And I said, you're just going to get assigned to a bunkhouse, and you're not going to be together. You're going to be in a room with 15 other dudes, and they're Texans and they're Christians. And they were like, oh my gosh, are they going to kill us? So they were so scared. Everyone's afraid of everybody else. And I said, and you're just going to go in there, and we're just going to go in there and trust. And so we went. And over the course of the days, and the other Muslims came and they sat right in the front row the whole time, the guys from the mosque came. And over the course of the week, one by one, those Hamas guys came to faith in Jesus. Because one of them, after the first night there, he stood up in the meeting, because in a mosque, if you're speaking in a mosque and someone's mad at you, they just start yelling. So that's how they would do it in the meetings at the retreat. They would just stand up and start talking. And I'd be like, okay, wait a second. Hassan has something to say. What do you want to say? And Hassan says, I had a dream last night, and in the dream I met Jesus. That's what he says in front of all these men. And I said, okay, what happened? He goes, well, remember when we were on the plane and I said, this is the kingdom of God? And I said, yeah, that was beautiful. He goes, Jesus told me that this is the kingdom of God in the room with all these Christians. This is the kingdom of God. And he said, I'm so grateful that you all have welcomed me here to be part of the kingdom of God. And that's how that guy came to faith in Jesus. He was the leader. And one by one, the men all had dreams about Jesus during the retreat. One of them wanted to get baptized in front of all the men, and we didn't rebaptize them. He put it on YouTube. That all happened. It was beautiful. All this amazing stuff happened. It'd take a long time to say. When we get back to the village and to Hamas, the Hamas leader takes me with him, and he goes into his group of that he runs, and he says, "We're not fighting anymore." Because when I was at this men's retreat, I met Jesus, and Jesus says, "We're not fighting anymore. This is not the right thing to do." And he disbanded the group. And man, you should have seen that room, how hostile that room was. But he did it. And then one of the guys was an administrator of the school in the area, the Muslim school. They changed the name of the school to the Kingdom of God School. And they started teaching students how to pray and hear God speak to them the way they had learned at the men's retreat. The school went from being this underperforming, horrible school into, I was there the year they got the award from USAID for the top performing school in the West Bank.
Wow.
All happened because the kids started getting their identity from God as taught to them by the teachers, as taught to them by the head of the school and the superintendent and the guys that were at the retreat. I'm still amazing friends with those guys today. Lots of things have happened in their community, but I'll tell you one thing: they are not involved in this violence. They're not. So the beauty of that story is there is a way to end this. There is a way to end it, but not the way we're going to do it. So the challenge, once the Christian guys and the Muslim guys, we all got together and we started telling the truth about I'm afraid of you. That's what I'm afraid of. Then God could speak, and then the Muslim guys especially, but even the Christians, started to realize the truth about God. God, like Peter says in Acts, I now see that God shows no favoritism to any group, because Peter didn't want to go be with Cornelius because he was dirty, and God's like, don't you dare call dirty what I created. And those men got to experience that together. Then next year we did the retreat. The Muslims brought 25 leaders. Plus we had Tunisians from Paris come, and they brought their wives, and we had to do a women's retreat too. So it just continued to grow. And then one of the years it was so many Muslims that wanted to come, we had to do their own retreat in Jordan because we couldn't fly everybody there.